Welcome back to the channel. We've got two very special guests on this evening. They preview the big game of the weekend, possibly the biggest game so far this season between last year's top two. Arsenal's the home team, so we'll say hello to you first, Stefan. How are you? How are you ahead of Sunday?
I mean, we haven't beaten Man City since 2015. So in the last 12 games, we've lost. So I'm gonna be just. I just hope we can do better than what we have. But I am a bit more optimistic than previous years. So yeah, it's a bit mixed for me, to be honest.
Jamie, good to have you back on the show. Haven't had you on for a few weeks. Rare off on a Friday night too, so everything's falling into place. Welcome back to the channel, and I
Yes.
suppose it's Arsenal, so you're probably feeling confident.
Aye, well, it's obviously a big match. For me, they are the outstanding candidates for the title winners this year, the two teams. But City's not been playing their premium football that they have been playing in the past, but they tend to do that at the start of every season. But we're still getting results. We're still top of the league. And hopefully we just up our game, not just that wee bit on Sunday, just to have that wee bit extra quality to get us over the line.
Yep. So that is the main course this evening: Arsenal, Man City. We will be looking at United towards the end of the show, and we'll look at the rest of the weekend's games. But lads, it is the big game of the weekend. Personally, I'm really looking forward to it because Spurs have been involved in sort of big games the last couple of weeks. So it's sometimes when you're, I suppose it'll depend on how we do on Saturday, but presumably we do one, that'll be nice to sit down on Sunday and watch two good sides go at it. I mean, Stefan, Arsenal come into this year after that defeat midweek, they lost. Everyone expected them, they won. But before that, after that draw against Spurs, everyone was with a couple of injury worries, but they went and smashed Bournemouth 4-0 with a very, very convincing performance. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you put Wednesday night down to? Do you think it was, they're 1-0 up cruising? Do you think it was just a wee bit of complacency?
Honestly, it was. I wouldn't call it complacency. It's just a typical hysteria again among the Arsenal fan base. This was our first Arsenal loss. They had 3 shots on target, of which they scored 2 goals, and of which both goals, if you actually watched them, they were ridiculous finishes. Like the first one was, I mean, it was a world class finish. So it just wasn't our night. We had a bad game. Everybody played poorly, pretty much, bar maybe Declan Rice and Saliba. Everybody was poor, so it was just a bad performance. I mean, last week, Man City, who would have thought that they would lose to Wolves? So it was a bad game. It happens. I'm not really concerned. The only negative I would take from that game is that Saka got injured. But I mean, and this again, going back to that, this annoys me. And everybody's like going on about we shouldn't have played Saka and stuff like those same Arsenal fans. If we had played a weakened squad and we had lost, they would have blamed Arteta for rotating. So Saka has to play. It's a Champions League game. And if Arsenal can't deal with one player being missing, and that is the key factor in us losing the game, I'm sorry, we're not serious for the actual title. So yeah, that's my view on Lons, honestly.
Yeah. Jamie, and kind of roles reversed for you. You just lost on Saturday. The Wolves by a goal or 2 goals they won, and then Leipzig away is probably the trickiest game you had in the group. And it was 1-1 for a long time, and then you got them 2 late goals, and the end it looks like a really, really good one. 3-1 away from home, 6 points out of 6. You'd expect Man City to have that wrapped up now in the next couple of weeks. No, once they get the 4 games, you'd imagine they'll win all their games now. So how are you feeling coming on this? I mean, it's a massive game. As you said, Man City are top of the league, but just by a point. So there's a lot riding on the game too.
Definitely. I'm confident going on there because, look, Arsenal's kind of having a resurgence over the last few seasons. So they're playing really good football and they're a top side. But City have been everybody's cup final for a few years now. So we're used to these bad games. We're used to being, we're used to, having to turn up and perform. Like I said at the start of the show, we've not been vintage. We've not City what we'd expect of them the last few seasons. Couple of losses back to back. The 3-1-1, it didn't flatter us, but we weren't convincing, in my opinion,
No.
midweek. But but that's what top teams do. You know, we get the job done, and that's where we have to. You know, that's where you have to hang your trust on the side that we will get the job done on Sunday as well. But you know, we're definitely not firing on all cylinders. So you know, it's going to be an open game. We like to press high. Arsenal like to press high. Both teams can exploit the gaps at the back, and that's that's what we're going to do. You know, both teams have to defend well, but attack carefully and tactically. It'll be a good game of tactics. But I fully agree with what you said earlier in the show about Saka and stuff like that as well. I think Saka, big players play. You know, that's top level football. You know, you can't go in the Champions League games and rest anyone. No, lawns of good pedigree in European competition. Your big players play. That's what they have to do. Like, so I fully agree with you there. They need to. No. You know, you don't have that luxury of just dropping guys just to give them a rest.
Yeah.
No, but wait, Gary, going.
No, go ahead. Jump on.
Sorry. Going to what Jamie actually said, if you look at the minutes, last season, Bernardo Silva played more minutes than Saka. Riyad Mahrez played more minutes than Saka. But now suddenly Saka is overplayed. And this type of mentality annoys me. Like, if we want to win, our big players and our highest paid players, our best performing players, they have to play. Away to Lens, as we saw, is not some easy fixture. And this is where I worry. The main difference in the Lens Arsenal game and in the Leipzig Man City game was the difference was ruthlessness. Alvarez scored a goal from nothing, pretty much. A ridiculous finish. Arsenal missed prior to when it was 1-1. Trossard missed a really good chance. And then Tomiyasu, even though that was unlucky, should have scored from the corner. The goalie, after that, said in the interview that he didn't see the ball. It just hit him. So that was pure luck that he actually saved that shot. But again, Arsenal were not ruthless enough. And as a result, Lens attacked. I think their first shot on target in the game, in the second half, they scored. And for me, that's the difference right now between those two teams. We're not ruthless enough. And that's why Man City worries me. Is because that even when they don't play well enough, like against Leipzig, they were not convincing. Leipzig were causing them problems on the break a number of times. And then Alvarez comes on and breaks the game pretty much with a ridiculous finish. And that's why, that's the difference for me.
He's been impressive this season, have to say. I mean, last year's top two, for me, still the two, as Jamie said at the top of the show, still the two teams they very much beat this season. I think they are the two best in terms of their squads and their individual quality as well, and the way that the two managers have been playing. I mean, who's in better shape, lads? I mean, Stefan, we'll come to you because, I mean, Man City have won 7 out of 8. They're a point ahead of Arsenal, but you could argue Arsenal's had harder games. They've played United. I know United's not at the risk of it, they're still a big club. Played Spurs. Whereas Man City, this will be their first. They played Newcastle at home, I suppose you could say. But as they say, the traditional top 6 teams, this will be their first meeting. So I mean, who do you think comes in the better shape?
In my opinion, based on the players that are available currently that Man City and Arsenal have, I think the importance of Rodri to Man City compared to the importance of Bukayo Saka to Arsenal, I think the importance of Rodri is bigger, slightly. I'm not saying Saka is not major in terms of going forward for Arsenal. I just think Rodri, the number 6, especially in the Man City team, for me, is their most important position. And I just think they don't have. I don't think Pep Guardiola trusts Calvin Phillips. So I think going on into this game, if Arsenal play Rice and Partey in center mid, I think that's going to be a big problem for Man City because I don't think without Rodri, I do not think they'll be able to win the midfield battle, especially physically. That's my opinion. And then defensively wise for me, I would say their best performing defender from last year, John Stones, is not going to play. So that's another big miss for them. But then you can argue Arsenal is missing. I would say this is what we need to sign in the summer or in January, which is we miss speed in transition. We don't have a player that can suddenly go from defense to attack in the space of a few seconds. And that's who Martinelli is. And that's why when we play Man City, the player that usually plays the best for Arsenal is not Saka. It's usually Martinelli. He gives them the most amount of problems. So if you ask me my opinion, overall, slightly, I would say right now Arsenal are in better shape based on the players that are missing for Man City. In my
I mean,
opinion.
I think it's very, very tight. I mean, I'm having real problems. I think I could go either way. It's going to be very tight. Jamie, I mean, same question to you. Rodri is going to be out. But City have still won 7 or 8. No one else has done that this season. You still have to beat these teams in front of you. You look at Spurs, they drop points away at Brentford. Arsenal have dropped points at home to Fulham. The only blip Man City have had has been away to Wolves. And they've got 21 points prior to that. So I mean, they come on it in decent shape. They've had worse starts these seasons, and we know Man City after Christmas, January time, they really kick on. So I mean, are you confident going into this game still that you expect it's a big game? Man City, they rarely don't turn up in these games.
I am confident because I do think that these are the games that this is where City turn it on. I think the results that we've had this season, I think we've done it in third gear. I agree, Rodri's a massive must. I think he's a big must because he's one of the guys that even when we don't perform, he performs. He is a steady 8 out of 10 week in, week out. And even when the rest of them aren't turning it on, he always does. But so I agree that I think Arsenal's coming in slightly stronger and slightly. They've just had a bit of a better start in terms of just seemed like they're firing a bit better move. They just look a bit. But that's me just watching City week in, week out. I'm seeing flaws. I'm seeing that they're not the free flowing Man City that we're used to seeing when they're at the pump. But then again, I think these games, these big matches, I think this is where City start. You know what I mean? This is where City turn it on. We seen it last year when we played Arsenal. It was touch and go, coming up like game. We end up romping, and we looked outstanding in that game. We created holes. I'm hoping Haaland can get fired. I'm looking at the way City's playing, and we're playing very much the same as we did early last season. We're not feeding Haaland enough. He's feeding on scraps. The ball's coming in. We're missing Gundogan as that type of role, and obviously Kevin De Bruyne's out injured. When he comes back, things will be different. He tries to put the ball on a lot earlier, tries to split the defence. Where I think with Foden and Grealish, great players as they are, they need to adapt a little bit more to Haaland's play, drop a little bit deeper, and move the ball. But as you touched on, Partey and Rice trying to win that dominant midfield area, I think that will force us to sit on a little bit deeper, just to congest the midfield, try and stop them guys playing. But with that, we'll have to move the ball earlier, so it could actually play into Haaland's hands. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if Alvarez is on there with him, linking up play, I think we could have it could be a great game for the two attackers.
No, guys, if you remember their last visit last season when they beat us 3-1, I've never seen Pep Guardiola change the system. Maybe since the Lyon game 2-3 years ago where he played 3 at the back, he gave the ball to Arsenal. You guys, you beat us, but you finished the game with like 35%.
I was going to say that. Sorry, Stefan. Do you expect that to be the same again in this game? Do you think Pep's got that much respect for Arsenal? The fact that you expect Partey and Rice to play, and the fact that Bruyne is out, Rodri won't be there, that Pep might be happy to sit off. He's got the players like Doku, Alvarez, Haaland, loads of pace on behind. And if you look, that's when Arsenal's been their most vulnerable this year, pace on behind. So, Stefan, do you expect that kind of game where Arsenal may have more of the ball?
I honestly don't know. I think Arsenal should have more of the ball because Rodri isn't playing, and and if Partey and Rice are gonna play, I would expect us to have more of the ball because I think physically, I don't think Man City can deal with the Arsenal midfield with both of these players there. But Pep, I mean, last season when they beat us 3-1, they beat us playing not Mourinho football per se, but they played long ball. They just chipped it over the really high line that we had to Haaland. He was really good, and then they just picked us off pretty much. This season, I don't know whether is he gonna risk that again because that game was 1-1 and Arsenal they missed. I remember Eddie Nketiah missed. He just missed it by like a few inches to tap it in. So that game was.
Stefan, would that be a worry for you at the moment? Right, you look at Man City; they're a team that are very, very ruthless. Arsenal
Completely.
at the minute are lacking that ruthlessness up front, and you always feel like against Spurs with Jorginho, they've got a mistake on them a wee bit. Whereas Man City's a bit more streetwise. Is that your worry on Saturday that if you don't take your chances, you'll be punished?
No, Gareth, I've told you before. The biggest difference between us is that ruthlessness is against Spurs. I'm telling you, we've talked about this before. If the Spurs game, Man City had those first 30-35 minutes that Arsenal had, that game would have been 2-3-0 City.
Yeah.
That game would have been 2-3. The Gabriel Jesus chance, especially the one where he stole it off Madison,
Yeah.
that was a goal. Either or no, or he would have been smarter. He would have taken the ball forward and made Madison foul him. So gone a penalty and a red card. City are just more street smart than us, and that's what I'm worried about. That in terms of, for me, that's the difference, and that's why Arsenal in January really want to sign Tony, because in my opinion we need more ruthlessness in the box, and I think he's one of the best finishers in the league. So I don't know. I'm really intrigued to watch this game. I want to see our level, because this is you have games where you kind of, this is your moment. Like, this is okay. Arsenal have arrived, and we have to take this moment now. We have to. I'm fed up of doing the potential stuff and saying Arsenal are title challengers. They're potentially gonna. No, you have to take this opportunity, beat them, motivate yourself. Like, Arsenal have every right to be more motivated than City. They should be every day. They should. If I'm the coach, I'll just put up the last 12 games, the goal difference of 33-8 every day, in the gym, in the change room, every day, because Arsenal should be much more motivated than City, and we have to go. We have to go into this game saying we have to make a statement, and they don't even have their best player, in my opinion, who is Rodri, or maybe their most important player. So another advantage for us. If you remember, sorry to go on, 4 or 5 years ago when Liverpool won the league, they had their moment. They went to Anfield and Liverpool destroyed them 3-0. Was it 3-0? Yeah,
3-1, I
I
think.
remember. And
Nice, but it
Liverpool,
was
and,
3-0
and
Liverpool.
that game could have been 5-6-0 Liverpool. Like, they made a statement after that game, and everybody knew they're winning the league this year after that game. So that's, for me. Yeah, it's
Jamie, how
Yeah,
big
no,
of a
I do 100% agree with you. I think that Arsenal have to have the moment. It's an exact term I would use, because at the minute, as if they're not expected to win, they're always, the Arsenal's doing really well with this young squad, and it's all they're
yeah.
glossing. But there comes a point where you have to just step out of the shadow and say, right, we're top level, full stop. Not we're really good for having a young side, or and that's where they're at. They've got a good young squad. They're inexperienced. I think last year they shown a bit of naivety at games. Just as you said, the lack of street smarts, and this is where you will see, have they improved, have they not. It might be the game later in the season where you'll see that they've kind of switched on. They do have a great young side. I think Odegaard's one of the best creative midfielders around, but he's very young as well, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of these guys coming in, and they do have to have their moment, and that's 100%, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, Jamie, how much of a statement do you think it would be if Man City go to Arsenal and won without De Bruyne, without Rodri? Do you think that would put not just for Man City, but everyone else that's sort of the likes of Liverpool, who are thinking they can challenge, and Arsenal, who have been there, who look like their most it was their challenger last year, and you would still say this season they're the best opportunity if they go there without two key players and one?
I don't know what City's expected to win, regardless of who's missing. I think the pressure is on us to win the game. And that's, I think we're the team that everyone looks at to win. But as we just said, Arsenal, they can't look at this as that free hit against Man City that other teams look at. They have to step out of the shadow. But City's expected to win, and I think if we won the game, I don't think there's any credit to be taken for missing out. We're top side. You're meant to have a top squad. But there's no credit to be taken for missing a couple of players. We have to go and do it without them, and that's just the way it is. We have enough there to fill the gap, and it's not quality in players that's coming in, to replace these guys. I don't think Phillips will play. I think Phillips, if he was going to play on Sunday, he would have played on Wednesday. Or Tuesday. I don't think that he'll play on Sunday. I don't think Pep rates him.
Who's
I don't
gonna
think he
play?
wants him. Yeah. And I don't know what I think. The system of play is imperative to how we do things on Sunday. I think we need to hug the touchlines. We need to get wide, and we need to spray the ball about and stop Arsenal dominating that midfield area. And that's all we can do. But we do have the players to do it, and I don't think Rodri or De Bruyne missing is an excuse. We have to go and win these matches without them.
Jamie, see, apart from Arsenal, do you think, is there anyone else as a Man City fan you'd be worried about at the minute? I mean, Liverpool fans are very, very confident at the minute that even though they say they were robbed on Saturday, and on a different day they won that game, and they played quite well even with 10 men at times. Do you see, and they were your most recent challenger for a number of years before Arsenal, so do you see any danger in them coming back on it?
No, I don't, to be honest. And I'm not just being biased. I just don't see them clicking. You know, they're not, you know, at times last year, Arsenal wiped the floor with teams. And Arsenal, they didn't know when they were beat. They were scoring in the 97th minute. When Liverpool were our main challengers, they were doing the same. And I'm not looking at Liverpool thinking he's looked like a top side. I think they look beatable every time they step on the pitch. I know the eternal victims, you know what I mean? This is the best thing that happened in that VAR decision. So, you know, it's just something else to moan about. But
That's
I
so
really
true.
don't see them pushing on and being. I still think they'll be up around the top six. But I think as the season goes on, I think that Arsenal and City will kind of peel away. You know what I mean? I think it will be that battle for fourth place. I think they'll be involved in that, if I'm honest. That's where I see them. Maybe a couple of good signings in January might just give them a push on. But they just, you know, I'm not looking at Salah as the same player he was. I'm not looking at midfield. I know there's a lot about this Sazerblay, if I say his name correctly, but he's, you know, he looks a good player and a good prospect. But he's not commanding midfields the way they would have had players in the past. You know, so they're a few years off again, challenging. You know, in my opinion.
Stefan, just before we come to you, Kieran Preston, don't know if you know him, Jamie. He's not happy here. He's having a beer night off, and he says, "Don't get me started."
No,
when he hears top six contenders, I think he's going to spot that beer out. Callum was saying that he fancies Man City on Sunday, but he's also saying that Salah's arguably the best player in the world. Come on, Jimmy, you're going to eat your words. The Liverpool,
he's still a top player. Salah's a top player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but he's not dragging them through the trenches the way he did a few years ago. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, the team has to be set up around him, but he doesn't have that. And maybe it's just about a form. You know, maybe he'll get it back. You know, later in the season. But there was a few years ago, he used to get the ball. He could get the ball in his own box, and you were terrified. You know what I mean? It was at that level, and you know he's still a top finisher. He's a top player, but he's not going to win the league on his own. You know what I mean? He hasn't played player. I don't mean it like that.
Stefan, what about you? I mean, you've said from the start of the season it's very much Man City Arsenal again. Have you seen anything in the last 7 weeks to change your mind?
No, I've told you, Gareth, about Liverpool. Every time I watch them play, they have a 30 to 45 minute spell where they look extremely open, extremely suspect defensively. And they're one injury away from playing Joe Gomez, Gareth. Joe Gomez is a championship player. Like, he's awful. Like, he is one of the worst defenders I've ever seen. Like, I'm being serious. I've never seen a player make more mistakes. I don't know how this guy plays for Liverpool. So Liverpool fans can go at me and you know and say, oh, they're not. I don't see them. You replaced Fabinho with Dominic Szoboszlai, who's a very talented attacking midfield player. They don't have a DM. They signed a Endo, who, let's be honest, is nowhere near the same level as Fabinho when Fabinho was, you know, at the top level. And if you look at the players that they have signed to replace the outgoing Sadio Mane and Firmino, let's be honest, they haven't been of the same level. Nunes, although he's super talented, misses the worst sitters I've ever seen. Like yesterday, did you see the actual chance he missed?
I seen it. I seen the first half of it. I couldn't watch any. I couldn't watch any more. That's it. It was just a training exercise for Liverpool. I watched the first 45 minutes and I turned it off.
I love him as a player. I think he creates chaos. I think he's a super talented player. But in my opinion, I really think Sadio Mane is one of the most underrated Premier League players. And I'm saying this because Mohamed Salah got all the plaudits at Liverpool. When I think, in my opinion, I know he's got the actual stats, Mohamed Salah, with the goals and stuff, but Sadio Mane for me was a better player. In terms of the way Liverpool played, he always, whenever he played against City, he tormented City. And in the biggest games, I always thought Mane was just huge. And for me, I don't think you can't replace such a player that easily. It's very difficult. So,
Kieran saying, get back to the game on Sunday. We will chat about us spanking both of you in the coming week.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to have to get Kieran on for that.
Wait, Garrett, I just want to add a second thing. And the main reason why they're not going to win and they're not going to challenge is their reaction to the VAR decision. Putting out a statement saying that you pretty much highlighting the fact that they need a replay. Are you kidding me? This is why they're not going to win, because of this type of mentality where they feel they're victims. Their coach feels they're victims, even though Arsenal could have done this last year with Brentford. So many teams could have done this. And for me, that is one example of how Klopp is slowly I've told you this before, he's slowly declining. And I really do think that in the near future he won't be a Liverpool coach,
Mm.
because I just
Interesting.
think, yeah, go on.
Interesting. I'm going to try and move it on, Stefan, because we are
Go on.
getting sidetracked. It was just a throwaway because I know there's a few watching, and these Liverpool fans, I'm telling you, they love it. So
They love
I
the
mean,
bite, don't they?
Stefan, we'll stick to you because this is a big one for you. I mean, you have lost. You haven't beat Man City since 2015. Man City have won the last 12 league games in a row. Sorry, 2015 in the league. Man City have won their last 12 in the league in a row. I mean, with Rodri out, with De Bruyne out, that supply lane to Haaland has cut off slightly. Are Man City ever going to be as vulnerable? Is this your best opportunity to beat them?
100%. Without Rodri specifically, that for me, because if he doesn't play Calvin Phillips and doesn't play a true DM, Odegaard, in my opinion, will get more space, and so he will cause problems big time. And I just think Declan Rice and Partey, although I rate Kovacic and Foden, they're really good players. I don't think they can win a battle against them in terms of in the midfield, because for me, Partey is the only player that I have watched whenever he's played against Rodri that he's outplayed him a number of times. So, in my opinion,
Yeah.
But so for me, it's our best chance. I mean, it's depressing when you say that. That's awful. That's kind of like Spurs' record at Anfield. I think you've only won 3 times there. I read some ridiculous stats since like 1904, like something awful like that. That's just as bad.
Do you know what, you won't want to talk about our record against Man City, Stefan, because hey, if you want to beat Man City, just go and watch the Spurs game. No, I have to say,
That
has to be one of the most luckiest runs in football ever. I mean, that is just incredible.
Not, Gareth. No, it's not. No, that's not true. Look, I'm not defending Spurs, but every time you guys play them, you play the perfect. You play their weakness, which is you play really well on the counter attack. That's with Son and Kane. So that's not true. But in terms of, if you look at all the teams, the thing that worries me, all the teams that trouble Man City, Wolves, for example, if you look over the years, Wolves have troubled Man City and have beaten them, I think, a number of times at the Molineux.
Yeah,
it's because they play super counter-attacking football, which Man City cannot deal with very well. And do Arsenal have those players on Sunday? No, we're going to try and out-City, which I'm worried about that. That's why if you look at the Arsenal transfer targets in January and the summer, it's 2 players. It's Ivan Toney and Pedro Neto. And you can see why.
Yeah. Same sort of you, Jamie. I mean, we talked about Rodri missing. It's likely we don't see Calvin Phillips playing there because you said he hasn't been playing really at all. It's likely to be Kovacic playing that sitting role. I mean, does that worry you with someone like Odegaard, who, I mean, apart from De Bruyne, you'd have to say is the best around? He can really dictate these games. I mean, would that be the one worry, that these haven't got that defensive mid player to stop him?
No, to be honest with you, I don't have a worry about individual players, individual performances. It's about how City perform as a team. We can very easily nullify that midfield by just keeping the ball away from them. We have so much attacking power. We can keep the defense. We have one of the best backlines in world football. So we that can play ball as well. So I'm not that worried. I think Kovacic, if he's fit, I don't think there's a question mark over his fitness for the weekend. So I don't know if he'll even play. I could see Rico Lewis coming in and playing. I think he was fantastic during the week. I think he's a very, very good young footballer, and he's a right back by trade. He's come to the youth ranks as a right back. So I do think from the defensive capacity, he could sit in there and do a great job.
You only have to look at Pep's comments about him. He says he's one of the best players he's ever coached.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I've been highly, highly impressed with him. And I'm not one to get really run away with, a couple of good performances from a player, but everything I've watched him, he does everything correctly. He keeps the ball well. He has great vision. He plays forward, back, sideways, every direction. He's not a gung-ho type player. He's not looking just to beat a man. He can get the ball down and play with the best of them. And if you watch him off the ball, he knows his position really, really well. Every position he's played in at City, he's done his job really well. So I can see him playing on Sunday. But no,
Jamie, over Kyle Walker, really?
Oh no, I think Kyle Walker will play right back, but I think Rico Lewis will play as one of our holding midfielders.
As one of your holding mid? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think he'll play as one of our holding midfielders on Sunday.
He
As,
did do it one
as
other time. He did do it one. I think he did it against Spurs one time.
he
Lewis
played during the
played one
week
time.
as
I
a,
don't.
as a holding midfielder as well. He was very good. He was really impressive. He broke the lines with late runs. He moved the ball well, and he got back on and done his defensive work. Now, obviously, Leipzig, the Arsenal is a big step up, but I do think you can do a job in there, not a problem. But
I
again,
mean,
the first one since 2015, I just think these stats are they're throwaway. You know what I mean? After sure, it's a different stat on Sunday, so it's just one of
Spurs
them
haven't beat
things.
Liverpool for 6 years when they broke a record, so records are there to be broken, lads.
No,
And that's
you
the
know,
thing, Stefan. I mean, look, I want to concentrate on you, Stefan, with this one because for me, and you might think obviously being a Spurs fan, but try to take the balance, trying to be balanced about it. Every time Arsenal lose a game or draw a game, and there is a responsibility because they've got a massive fan channel there in AFTV. It almost feels like it's sensationalized. The
It's just
fans
a
go on
joke.
the fans go on the overdrive. And I think Carragher spoke about it before. It was only like when they drew to Fulham, it was only the third or fourth game. I mean, do you think that they're putting themselves on the fans, the media are putting them under real pressure? I mean, it almost feels like they're under as much pressure as Man City. They won, and even Man City, they don't show that they're under as much pressure all the time. I mean, just feels like Arsenal. You're waiting for it to blow up, and it really shouldn't be about that
It's
because
just
over the last sort of year and a half, they've been so consistent.
no. I've told you like it's we lost our first game to. Hello, can you hear me?
you're,
Yeah,
you're
sorry,
back.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. It's just it's the I've told you before, like how we've talked about how we have this toxic negativity within our fan base. They're just waiting for a bad result in a way sometimes. The same way at like Spurs, you kind of after a few good results, you like hype yourselves up and you're
Yeah.
super positive for the sake. Arsenal has the opposite. Arsenal has we lose away to Lens after a poor performance. It's our first really poor performance in like 10, 11. We haven't lost
Sorry,
the
Stefan.
season.
Why do you think this is? But why do you think it is?
It's just our fan base is entitled, Gareth. It's entitled. So they're used to a certain like if you listen to like some of the fans, right? Some of those because you named one specific channel. I think they have improved recently. I'll be honest, compared to when it was under Wenger, where it was carnage.
But I
Um,
kind of understood it then as well because the results were pretty poor, whereas they're challenging now. I
They
don't see why.
weren't. They weren't. We were getting in the top four regularly. We were challenging for league titles. I would say half of those years at the end. In a way, I know we never got it over the line, but we weren't that bad. But if you listen to AFTV, were we weak mentally? Yes, I agree. We were soft, but I just don't like this reactionary kind of. If you watch some of those pundits on AFTV after the Spurs game, okay, where it finished 2-2. I know a lot of Spurs fans think it was a win for them, but it wasn't. I'm just saying. After it finished 2-2, one of this AFTV guy he said this is over. Our season is done. We're not winning the league. This is what I mean. So I'm telling you right now, if we beat City on Sunday, if we beat them on Sunday, this same guy is gonna go on AFTV and say we're gonna win the league. And this is the pro and this is what I mean. And then against Lens, everybody on like from the Arsenal fan base. I mean, the levels. Sorry to go on. I'm going on a rant here.
You're right.
When Timber got injured against Nottingham, there were some fans that were blaming Arteta, even though if you read reports, the whole medical team cleared him. So they were saying Arteta got Timber injured with an ACL because he let him onto the. This is the levels that's I don't get this within our fan base. I don't know within the Man City fan base if they have, but this toxic kind of negativity was started early on from the because if you watched AFTV then when it first started, there was very much a kind of a polarized. You had the very much Wenger inners and you had Wenger out people, and there was no middle ground between them. Each side waited for one result in their favor to like shove it in the other's face, and this has continued sadly with uh, Arteta, forgetting the fact that, and if you go, sorry, last thing, and if you listen to them, if you listen to those fans that are very kind of negative and like they call themselves realists, they say, oh, back in the day, Arsenal, like when we were the Invincibles, we expected to win the league and to challenge for the leagues every season. Yeah, man, context. Arteta took Arsenal from eighth. As Jamie said, we were a complete, S show. No, nobody cared about us. We were irrelevant. He took us from eighth. Now we're challenging with City. We've progressed. You can't just go from the Invincibles and suddenly you go through a bad period and then suddenly you like challenge again. And I think just like our fan base, the Man United fan base is the same, Gareth. It's the same. It's the same hysteria. It's the same, blaming the manager, blaming the players. We're Man United, even though you haven't been Man United for 10 years. Let's be honest. It's the same with Arsenal. We're Arsenal. We're expect. No, we're not expected. Football goes in cycles, and this is the problem with YouTubers, especially Arsenal ones. And that's why. Sorry, I went on. That's why.
No, but you're right though. But I think this is right across football in most teams. There's that. It's just like that media culture of it, where it's managers are under pressure after 3 and 4 games. That's why there's so many managers getting sacked. It's because they go from one end of the pendulum to the next. I think it's City and Liverpool is probably the only two where the managers are so well loved.
They're reasonable.
There's a lot more level-headedness about winning and losing a few games. Where I think at other clubs, because again, like you said at Arsenal, at a time Arteta was under a lot of pressure when he first came in, maybe in his first season or so, but he's gone from strength to strength. But I think a lot of the clubs, and it's just the culture of football at the minute. You lose a couple of games, your head's on the chopping block. And I think it's only a matter of time before managers are given 6-game contracts, because that's just the way it works now.
It's Jamie, you're right, and it's like with Arsenal, for example. What do they use now? Every bad Kai Havertz game. Yes, he hasn't been convincing. I agree, he hasn't been good. Poor signing from Arteta's signing. Okay, yes, that's one signing. How about all the other signings that he made that were all successful? How about the Zinchenko's, the Jesus, the Ben Whites of the world? No, they don't talk about that. They ignore that. They just focus on Kai Havertz being bad. Even though saying Kai Havertz is bad after 7 games or overall 9 or 10 is ridiculous, because if you watch Jack Grealish from Man City after his first season, he was awful. Everybody was saying he was a flop. Yeah. So it's just, this is what I mean by, even by Arsenal standards, if you watch Thierry Henry didn't score a goal for almost 3 months. Yeah. He was okay.
I think you have to bring balance on it. You have to give players chances. But I mean,
100%. The players, and Arteta will, he'll embed Havertz. Havertz has all the attributes to be a top player.
Yeah.
I think Arteta needs to find his best position, and that, but he's a very good player. He's not brought him on because for no reason. And we've seen it at City, and we've seen it at top teams. It's very easy. It's very easy to be a good player to per team. It's to come into a top team and make your impact and put your footprint on the game is very difficult, and they need to find a balance. You see so many other top players struggling at different clubs. It's not, doesn't make them poor players. It's just they're not finding their slot just at this moment in time. Havertz hasn't found his slot, but he will definitely play well for Arsenal over the coming years. He's young, he's big, strong, athletic. He has every attribute to make his impact in that Arsenal squad.
Yeah, I mean, lads, when I was looking at it today, I was trying to find some sort of vulnerabilities in this Man City team, because they're just so strong, and I think pretty much everyone, including me, maybe unless you're an Arsenal fan, fancies Man City to win it again. I mean, Jamie, would the only worry be if anything happened to Rodri for a significant amount of time? I know he's missed the Bruyne and they've coped with him well, but I think, as Stefan pointed out, there's no real replacement for Rodri. I think before the Leipzig game, they've lost 5 out of 15 games that Rodri was missing them, compared to 5 out of 65 without him. So that tells you that they do tend to struggle a wee bit without him. Obviously, the Newcastle game, there's a lot of changes and stuff. Maybe couldn't read too much into that, but they did lose 2 in a row. And then the Leipzig game, as you said, was not been talked up until Alvarez scored that goal and they won the game 3-1. So would that be your only worry if anything was to happen to him towards, for a significant amount of time? Would that let ours on?
Definitely, because he has such a big influential player. Now, look, yourself, sometimes when you're told immediately he's gone for 6 months, you get your head around it pretty quick and you move on. I think the 3 game, it's actually harder to fill the gap for the 3 matches. It's as if it's the end of the world up until after this Arsenal game when he comes back on proper. But he has a massive player. He's a massive influence on us, defensive and attack. I think that's something. I think his attacking qualities is something that's been underrated. As such, I think he's thrown into this holding midfielder role, where I think there's a lot of holding midfielders that just get away with being poor footballers. If I'm totally honest, where they go sideways and backwards and they don't offer anything in the fight in the attacking half of the pitch. So his attacking side is fantastic. He plays them right balls and it gets up on with a goal, as we've seen in the Champions League final. But definitely, if we lost him for a long time, we would have to dump on the transfer market to try and replace him, which is easier said than done, because I don't think there's many out there can fill his boots and play that role. He's a top player. But other than that, I think the only thing that's going to hold City back at the minute, in my personal opinion, I don't think we're scoring enough goals. And I don't think we're really creating enough chances. And I think that's the bigger issue. We're not getting. I think we looked at this last season. We're firing. The ball was steady in the box. There was teams hanging on. Even if we weren't converting, the other night we just we weren't getting shots away. We weren't working the keeper. It seems to be very side to side, pass. Obviously, Leipzig, they were kind of on damage limitation in the first half and just wanted to sit on. They had us on the counter in the second half, and then we had to unlock the door. But I think when we're I want to see us just being a wee bit more gung-ho, get balls into the box, try and get the best out of Haaland. Because when we play that far up the pitch, I seen this thing the other, because Alvarez plays obviously behind the main striker. He's a bit more of a drop-deep kind of attacker. But Haaland doesn't get that license anyway. He has to be the focal point. He has to be the last man. And when we're all playing in that final third, he has nowhere to go anyway. So, I think it's an unfair criticism of him, but I would love to see us be a little bit more quicker under the box. Try and get there with a few less passes and try and just open up defenses. A few pot shots, try a few from distance, just to put teams on the back foot a wee bit quicker.
Stefan, what about you? I mean, would that be your one, if you could say a wee prayer now, your dreams were to come true, would that be your one player that you would like Man City to miss? If Arsenal, if they're going to win the league, they probably need things to go their way, because I think if Man City probably do have the edge in the squad, but you need a wee bit of luck. They won leagues. Even Jamie will tell you that they've probably had a rather luck a couple of times. They won two leagues. The Liverpool with 1 point. So I mean, you do need that rubble of green sometimes. So is that what? Do you think if that would be a real leveler if Rodri was missing for say 2-3 months? It gives Arsenal.
No, Gareth. I'm not like that. I want Arsenal to beat Man City with Rodri. Like I want my team to be better than them. I think Arsenal with a midfield of Partey and Rice against City with Rodri, we showed in the Community Shield that game, in my opinion, was completely even. I would say maybe Arsenal slightly edged it based on the actual chances that they had, but that game was completely even. Both teams were, I would say that the Community Shield game. In terms of if I was to choose a player, any player from Man City that I would like to not play because of how good he is, yes, I would pick Rodri because of how important he is to their system. And not only that, Rodri in the biggest games plays big. If you remember Sheffield, they were really struggling 1-1. He scored a ridiculous volley. Champions League final, wins it for them. He always plays. Arsenal 2 years ago, when we absolutely should have, this is what I mean, we should have beaten them at the Emirates. We dominated them. We had so many chances. Rodri, at the death, scores the winning goal. So for me, like what Jamie said, like, he's completely right. When Man City are bad, he usually plays the best. He's usually the one that is trying to get them going, is trying to, set the actual tempo. Come on, guys, wake up. That is my opinion. In terms of, I would say their main weakness when it comes to if somebody gets injured, in my opinion, obviously is, apart from Rodri, is Haaland. Because if Haaland gets injured, although I really rate Alvarez, I think Alvarez is a pure football player is better than Haaland, like skill-wise and stuff. I don't think he'll have the same physical presence, because the difference between Man City from 2 or 3 years ago, and if you look at the way Arsenal are basically Man City, but a more younger version, because what Pep saw was basically, okay, I can control the ball and be really good with Gabriel Jesus before, but I'm not going to be as effective in the box. And if I put in crosses, it won't be as But with Haaland, what they have now is they can go a bit more direct, and they can put the ball into the box knowing they have him. And that's why Arsenal are also trying to transition towards that. That's why we're gonna try and sign Tony, and I would absolutely love that, because Tony would be sick.
Well, what do you think that Arsenal will do? Arteta, what Pep's done so well over his time at City is change the way we play. We'd win a league and he would sell a few players and we would completely change. If you remember at the start, we played with Sterling and Sané very, very wide. Then he went with more inverted. Sterling went on to the left. We had Mahrez. Now we're kind of changing up. We're having Doku wide. with Foden cutting on, and then so it's changed up again, and obviously going with Haaland as a main striker. But do you think Arteta has it in his locker to, obviously write out the success that he's have, and then change things to continue that success and make the big decisions? Because I put Arsenal last year. I watched the game where Partey had a dip in form last season towards the end of the season.
That's why we lost the league.
I felt that Jorginho was sitting on the bench, who to me is a winner. I think his legs are past what he was. But I remember watching the game thinking Partey's having a stinker here, and he's keeping him on because of how he's done all season and not how he's doing at the moment. Where I think Pep and another top manager would have looked at that situation, and it cost them. They lost that game. And I just think a top manager would have made that change. I think Arteta was a bit naive and let previous form influence how he was doing things, where I think Pep's a bit more cutthroat and will bring in, doesn't matter what you've done earlier in the season, you'll be dropped if you're not performing right there and then. And I think Arteta needs to just get that little bit more cutthroat, just if he's going to mix it with the top managers.
But Jamie, I would disagree. I think Arteta is really cutthroat. I love the fact that
this season he's shown a bit more of it. Yes, definitely.
I mean, Aaron Ramsdale gets in the PFA Team of the Year, and then our scouts have the opportunity that we signed David Raya, who was our number one target originally, who's perfect for our system, and in pretty much all the stats is a better goalkeeper last year than Ramsdale. Boom. Wenger would have never, in a million years, Wenger would have never done that. Wenger kept players that he should have, and this is why I have hope. Because I know Arteta wants to win. You can see by the players he has. For example, in my opinion, I love him. I have a soft spot for him. But Emil Smith-Rowe will be sold in the summer, and we will sign Pedro Neto. I really do believe that. I think Pedro Neto, we've wanted him for ages. He's an Arsenal fan. Arteta is cutthroat. And I think also we will sign Ivan Toney if we can, because he'll be a different option. The Cronkies will back Arteta. And as a result, either Eddie Nketiah is gone, or Gabriel Jesus is going to leave. Probably Eddie Nketiah, more likely. So even though I like Eddie, I think he's a good player. Do I think he's the top? No, he's not. I also think, guys, surprisingly, I'm going to tell you this. I honestly think Arteta will upgrade on Zinchenko in the future too. Because Zinchenko, he's amazing on the ball. He's key to the way we play. But he's too much of a liability defensively. So I really think Arteta will do that. Wenger would not have done that. Yeah. And that's why Pep is so great, because he saw, for example, with Sterling, Sterling wanted a massive payday. So he said, okay, just sell him. He saw Jesus didn't want to play second fiddle to Haaland, sell him. This was what Ferguson was a master at Man United. The moment he felt that a player was over the hill, he immediately sold him. Wenger, in his first kind of 10 years, was really good at that. And then he kept players like Jack Wilshere, who I loved, but was always injured. Abu Diaby, who was an amazing talent, but after that terrible injury, he could never return to fitness, and he still kept him. Arteta is, in my opinion, ruthless. And I honestly do think also, Jamie, that Ramsdale is going to be sold in the summer. But
like I said, these are the things that he has to start doing and show, because I've watched it as a City fan. I've watched great players go out the door in the past 5 years that years ago we used to sit and watch City and just say, oh, get rid of him. Now every year I'm gutted to see everybody, whoever's leaving, like from Sané, great players, Zinchenko, Jesus, all these great players are leaving, Sterling, and but that's what top managers do, and that's where we have to see how Arteta does that. Obviously, we won something, then we freshened it up. Arteta he has to take that final step, obviously won the league, and then has to freshen it up, keep their shape,
Hey, Stefan, do you know much about that comment there? Is Callum saying about Zinchenko?
Yeah, Timber.
Yeah,
Timber looked amazing. Timber looked like our best signing in the summer. It was in the Community Shield game.
I just thought you were looking at a replacement. Sorry, I forgot about Timber. I thought he was going to be looking at someone and he got injured. Sorry, so yes, Timber.
No. But Timber played left back also, and he was sensational. He just looked so good on the ball. Super good, incredibly solid defensively, unlike Zinchenko, for example. I love Zinchenko, but we have to get better, and that's what Ferguson did that brilliantly. He knew when to refresh the actual squad. Wenger did it, but Wenger did it in the first 10 years, out of the actual policy that anybody, he wouldn't offer anybody over 30 a long-term contract. So a lot of them would naturally leave once they reached like Vieira. But Wenger had a really good scouting system. He had, when Vieira left, we had Fabregas coming in. So that the transition was really smooth. So as that went along, and there were certain players that, in my opinion, the culture that was created at Arsenal wasn't, it was too comfortable. You had players that were there for far too long that shouldn't have stayed. And I think Arteta is the opposite. I'm telling you guys, Arteta, if we get Champions League football again and we get more money and stuff, Smith Rowe is gone, in my opinion. Arteta's route. Look at Partey. For example, why did we sign Declan Rice? Partey, in my opinion, right now is a better player than Declan Rice overall. But in terms of fitness-wise, he's not reliable. So Arteta said, no, I need Declan Rice because of the fact that Partey will be injured for at least 2 months of the season. For me, that's a sign. I really do think that Arteta does have that. The goalkeeper situation. Everybody was on Arteta for that. I was shocked. I'll be honest. I was shocked that we went for Ryan. I was like, even though I'm not convinced by Ramsdale, Gareth knows this. He's too up and down, in my opinion. But I was like, this is great. This is what I wanted to see from Wenger in the last 10
I've seen
years.
some criticism for Raya, though. Do you think Ramsdale will come back on Sunday, or will he stick with Raya?
No. Raya, you can see Raya fits the system far better. We look so much better on the ball with David Raya than with, because that, and the way David, I don't know if you guys noticed, the way David Raya plays, he plays much further upfield than Ramsdale. He pretty much plays as like a third center back. He plays exactly like
Ederson.
Yeah, he plays exactly like that. So you can see why he was our number one target. And either Ramsdale, either he adapts and shows why he's more valuable than Raya, or Chelsea are going to sign him for 60 million in the next summer. And
Chelsea will take everybody's scraps here. Look, lads, for me, right, this I work with an Arsenal fan, right? By a massive Arsenal fan, he's always next to me in the office. We do these BBC quizzes every day and all these quizzes, and we do test each other out. And they're always online. You can get it quickest. But he's a massive Arsenal fan, and he said to me, "Do you think this Man City team, or the Man City team of the last couple of years, is better than the Invincibles?" So I want to put it to you two now. Jamie, I'll come to you first. For me, the three best Premier League teams of all time are, in no particular order, the Invincibles, Man United's treble-winning team, and Man City's treble-winning team. They are the three best, and you can't really. People will say Mourinho's teams were good as well. But
Mourinho's Chelsea 2005 team was ridiculous, Gareth. They were ridiculous.
I think these three teams done more though. Arsenal being the only team that never went unbeaten, and Mourinho's team never won a treble. Compared to
the Invincibles, they drew a lot of matches.
They did draw 12 games. They did draw 12 games.
I think the Man City squad, between our Centurions, our treble team, are the best Premier League footballing squad that's been. I don't think.
Who do you think would win a game of football? I know football, it's 90 minutes a game, but if they played each other 10 times, let's say, who do you think would come out on top?
City. Are you going back? You talking City's current squad today? Because obviously they have to win something.
No. City and their pomp last year.
City, definitely.
No, Gareth, I'm going to tell you this, guys. This City team, the treble-winning team, against Mourinho's first Premier League, the 2005 team that got to 99 points and lost once, that team would beat the City team because they would play exactly to every single weakness. They had physicality, they were super fast, and they had Drogba. City they were kind of like Atletico Madrid.
Maybe on one day, but I want you to think, if they played each other 10 times over the season, who would come out on top?
I agree that Chelsea team were great, and they that Chelsea team kind of set the blueprint for what is top teams now. In the way they played in more of a diamond formation. They had, they played with one lone striker
defensively.
But that's it. City would nullify that side.
Kieran saying depends who's on.
How would you?
Kieran saying depends who's on VAR. He sent the pants. He's on the VAR. He won.
See, there you go. See if that Chelsea team should just kick lumps out of you. It'd be down to 7 men before half time.
Oh.
So it's Man City. Stefan, it's Man City for Jamie. What about you? Is this Invincible team better than the Man City team?
Look, this is difficult to rank in terms of what I've watched. I'm gonna be honest. I'm biased. the best Premier League team that I have watched in terms of pure performance, where I have felt nobody can beat these guys, was not the Invincibles. It was the Chelsea team. That Chelsea team, if it went 1-0, it was over. That game was over. Like, it was. I have never watched such a good defensively sound team. That's my opinion. Like, that's the best Premier League team. I mean, I'm biased here. I think the best one, the three best ones are, and the Man United treble team. I know everybody harps on about them, but they won that Premier League with like 75 or 76
Yeah,
points. Like, it was
but
not a really good.
the reason I've put them three teams in there is they did something that no one, apart from I know Man City
That's
done
true.
treble, they had
Yeah.
all done stuff that were never done before. I know Chelsea were brilliant and they conceded the least amount of goals in a season, but they never actually broke history. Whereas Arsenal never lost a game. As Jamie says, they did draw 12 games.
No,
but
yeah.
as you've seen this over even in Man City's great years, they haven't been able to do it where they went unbeaten. So that shows you how hard it actually is. They do. Jamie,
No,
as we said, they won the treble. They've got 100 points one year. They scored bags and bags of goals. So for me, them three stand out because they've done stuff that people had never done before. But I do get the Chelsea thing as well. I do get that, Stefan.
I think Chelsea set the blueprint. I think they changed football in a way because as you talked about earlier on about players changing. I think Arsenal, when Wenger was getting rid of guys like good players at the time, when he got rid of Vieira and had Fabregas coming through, Fergie was doing the same. But they had a very structured way of playing. They didn't have players coming in that had to adapt their system of play. They were playing 4-4-2 mainly at that time. And I think it was a bit easier to do that. I think when Mourinho came in, he changed the blueprint of how top teams play. But I think that City have taken that and just gone to a different level.
No, right, lads, it is that time of the evening, right? Sorry, Stephanie, got you off.
No
but
worries.
we're going to try and we're going to do this different. Well, last week, me, Meets, Callum, and Jared Dillon done the combined 11 with the two teams with players that were available. But because both teams have so many injury doubts and there's suspensions in there, I want you to think if both teams were playing their best 11 players, who gets into this team? All right, so we'll start off with the goalkeepers, right? I mean, Arsenal have had these goalkeeping. Who's the better, Ramsdale or Raya? Are any of them two better than Ederson in your opinion, Stefan?
If you look at stats, both, I think Ederson is one of the most overrated keepers in the league. I think if you put him, no, this is I'm just Jamie. Go look at his stats in terms of his save percentage, in terms of how many he is in the bottom 15 in terms of goalkeepers. So if we're looking at pure stats in terms of the percentages saved, both Ramsdale and especially Raya was in the top 3 in terms of goals.
But you could argue that Man City are facing this. You could argue there's these teams have more shots against them.
You know what?
Yeah, but that's even better, Gareth.
Playing on stats is punishing Ederson for having a good backline in front of him. Ederson, he comes into action. You see it every turnabout. He pulls off a save that he has no business saving. You talked about the importance of Raya, and from his footballing perspective, Ederson's set the benchmark on that. He's the best footballing goalkeeper.
What we're going to do here, right, is if you both have different selections, I'll have the deciding voter. Okay, so I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to be balanced. All right.
No, if you ask me, if you look at stats, it's even more impressive that David Raya has a much better save percentage, has prevented much more goals than Ederson. Actually cost more goals than he actually prevented. Guys, check out the extra.
Stats can be manipulated. They can be taken from it.
I'm gonna push you for an answer on this. So is it Stefan, David Raya, or
Raya?
Ederson?
For me,
Raya. Jamie, David Raya, or Ederson?
Eddie, million miles.
All right, so I'm gonna have to come on.
It's not even. You're talking
first
about a
time I'm there, right?
serial Premier League winner, and a guy that was playing for Brentford 3 months ago.
I'm going to bring a bit of balance on this, right? I do think Raya is a top goalkeeper, and he will be a top goalkeeper. I think, personally, Spurs, I wanted him in the summer. He was the one goalkeeper I thought there would be available and come in and be a massive upgrade on what we have. I'm still disappointed he went to Arsenal. But Ederson, based on his consistency, you can only really put Alisson up there with him in the last number of years. I think you have to give it.
I don't think Alisson's even at that level anymore. I think Alisson was a very protected
goalkeeper. Jamie, you think Ederson is better than Alisson? Come on, 100%, Jamie.
100%, but he's brave. The way he plays.
Well, luckily, we're not going to have
at Liverpool. He played with 2 centre halves and 3 holding midfielders in front of him. He didn't have a lot to do. He was well protected. So when you break down stats of Ederson, he's protected. But if you look at the way he starts play, he pulls off magnificent saves. For me, Eddie's a top keeper in world football.
No, I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying last season he had a bad. If you look at his stats, he had a bad season, which is even with the few shots he faced,
He won the treble.
He should have saved. Huh? What?
like he played all, like there was no bad season,
He
you
won.
break down the stats, but Eddie's the top. He is the blue.
What we're going to do is that, because we're coming up to an hour here, we're going to try and move it on a wee bit. So Ederson for me gets on, okay. Right backs, Kyle Walker, Ben White. I think Kyle Walker, arguably the best right back to play in the Premier League.
No, calm down. No,
I think so.
No, definitely has. Consistent
I'm sorry,
for the past 10 years. Serial winner, played brilliant football at international level.
Like there's a lot of players that won things that weren't the best to play. Giroud won a World Cup with France. Is he like like an amazing player? No, he's not. But
it's the same as what you're doing with stats. These can be looked at in different lights, but for me, winning football matches and winning tournaments and winning trophies is the end, not to have the best stats.
I have to say, this is fantastic, not having to be involved in this and just sort of be the judge here, because I mean, I'm loving this here. You two argue away. But Kyle Walker for me gets on. Centre backs, we're going to go Man City. They chop and change quite a lot. I'm just going to start off with one player in particular. Jamie, would Saliba get into the Man City team?
Yeah.
You don't think so?
I'm going to sound really biased here, but see at
this boy is one of the top centre backs in the world at the moment.
Players are going to get into City's best, and that's the truth. That doesn't mean that they're bad players. That doesn't mean that they're not good enough to be a part of the Man City squad. But if you're picking 11, City have 4 centre halves.
Stefan, just before you come on, Stefan, okay? Jamie, what I want you to do is, Jamie, I want you to name your 2 centre backs then.
Stones and Diaz,
right?
Stones is injured.
No, we're doing it for everyone's
it's not about Sunday. It's Stones and Diaz are the top 2.
What about you, Stefan? Does Saliba better than any of them 2 in your opinion?
I think the only center back that is better than Saliba in the Man City team is Ruben Diaz. I know Stones has played really well last year, but I also remember Stones from a year and a half, 2 years ago, where he kept falling on his ass, and he's not. I'll be honest, I've never rated Stones. I think he's too finesse. He's too much of a. He's not aggressive enough, in my opinion, and physical enough as a defender. Sometimes I've seen him get bullied. So, in my opinion, I would say that my 2 center back pairings would be Ruben Diaz and Saliba.
So Diaz gets on, and it's between Stones and Saliba, right?
Stones by a million miles. It's like
they bring balance. They bring balance into this, right? What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to focus on when Stones was the same age as Saliba. I think this Saliba boy,
he was at Barnsley, I think.
Exactly. I think this Saliba boy is going to be a top centre back.
I think he already is. 21, 22?
21, I think. 21.
Stone's not getting bought for 50 million by Man City at that age.
No, he got bought for 50 million when he was like 25, I think, 24.
No, it wasn't that.
How long did Man City?
I think he was a lot younger when we signed him.
I think Saliba is going to be one of the top in the world in the next year or 2. So
let's not forget, Saliba's the player that Arteta didn't even want last season. He loaned them out.
Oh, come on. Stop with this narrative.
Stones, serial winner. For me, Stones and Rio Ferdinand are the 2 best ball-playing centre-halves the Premier League's ever had. But obviously there's a lot of different factors come into being a top centre-half.
Oh, okay.
But, because you have other great defenders on there. But as regards ball-playing defenders, Stones and Rio was the 2 best. When you pair them up with Ruben Diaz,
I'm going to think of who I'd want right now, and I'm going to put Saliba on there. I think Saliba, for me, gets on. Sorry to disappoint you, Jamie. Left back, now this is quite interesting, because you've been playing Nathan Ake there at times, all our players there. You have sold Zinchenko, who's done quite well at Arsenal, but as Stefan quite rightly said, he can be a bit of a liability defensively. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Jamie, who would you pick?
Well, do you want the left back? Because we have no nailed on left back, you could probably, if it wasn't a player that we deemed surplus to requirements playing for Arsenal, you could have got one on, but it looks like now it has to be Ake for left back, because
Jamie, I'm sorry, he's been terrible this year. He's been terrible.
He's not been terrible. We've played a few games.
He got absolutely destroyed by what's his name?
Would you play Rico Lewis left back?
Huh? What?
Would you play Rico Lewis?
Well, I've never seen Rico Lewis play left. He may have played a half at left back at one point, but he's still. I think he's a bit further. Well, I suppose if you're putting Saliba on, you could throw Lewis on, but it's one of them.
Honestly, I don't really care, because I don't rate Zinchenko highly and I don't rate Ake highly. I've never.
I do rate Ake, but Aki's not a left back. He's a centre
I think
back.
this is probably, and there's very few weaknesses in these two teams, but it's probably the area they'll both only strengthen. Would that be fair to say? I think we have to.
What's there is good enough. You know what I mean?
I'm going to go with Zinchenko based on his left back. Okay.
Look at Garrett, the Spurs fan, picking two Arsenal players. I'm so impressed, Garrett.
Stefan, I'm very balanced. I'm a very balanced person. 1 wee second, we have a comment here on screen. Jesus, you're going to need a wrangling ref if this keeps up. I know you can be the VAR here, and any decisions you can agree, we'll go to you for a review. And remember now, they confirm it with somebody else now. That's a new rule. You have to confirm with somebody beside you before you come back to me. So we're going to do a treble check on these. So midfield now, stacks of quality in this midfield. Probably the two strongest depths midfield in the league by none. So, I mean, Rodri, you've got Partey, you've got Rice, you've got Odegaard, you've got De Bruyne. They're the ones that really stand out for me. I mean, where do we even start here, lads? I mean, are we all in agreement that Rodri gets in?
No, I'm gonna. Well, Garrett knows this. I'm biased. Every time I've watched Partey against Rodri, Partey has outplayed him every single time. Partey has played better than him. That's I rate.
Maybe Partey has a little bit of inside information on him because they played together at Atletico, and maybe he's giving him the upper hand. But on season, Rodri's.
No, I agree. I agree. No, because Partey gets injured too much because of availability. This, in terms of a player, if you ask me, Partey at his best against Rodri at his best, I think Partey's.
But this isn't about playing against each other. This is playing as a season.
And I want you to remember too, right? We're either going to have to go 1-6 and 2 8s or 2 6s.
So Rodri, we have to go with Rodri.
Right. Yeah. So are we looking to play 2 8s?
I would go after
the 2 8s. Arsenal player on.
I'm sorry. Declan Rice is better than Kovacic. I'm sorry.
You can have Rice.
I think the two I would go for is De Bruyne and Odegaard.
No. Who's gonna defend Gareth?
Rodri.
I mean, that's risky there, but I would have Rodri, Rice, and De Bruyne after that.
What about you, Jamie? What way would you go?
Well, that's the thing. It's then you're in the formations. Rodri and De Bruyne has to play. They have to play. So it's whether you're going to get Odegaard on there as an attack in front or Rice if you want to sit a bit deeper. So you can have the call on that one.
So we're going to go with he's want Rice. So Rice, Rodri, and De Bruyne. So on the right hand side, I think Saka definitely gets on.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Saka's better than any of your right wingers, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yes, but
who?
I think Foden's a better player than Saka.
It's where we go with the Foden bullshit. Why is he a better player? He doesn't even start for City. How is he a better player? When I hear this from Man City fans,
City have a bigger squad. He's, there's rotation.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to open this a bit because left hand side we've got Martinelli, we've got Foden, we've got
Grealish. It's between Grealish and Martinelli.
I would like to see Foden.
Martinelli's another sick note. He's good 1 week. He does nothing for 6 or 7 months, and then he comes back and has another.
Again, Jamie, Grealish can't even score 5 goals a season, man. How is Martinelli?
If we're going to pick over them, I would have Foden on ahead of both of them.
I would pick Foden.
Foden doesn't even play on the wing, Jamie. He plays in midfield.
But he's been playing right wing since the start of this season, and he was playing left last season.
I think
he's better down the middle, but
you have to make a case. You have to make a
get Foden
for Foden.
It's a fluid lineup. You have to get Foden.
And then up front,
he's another typical overrated British player, and it annoys me so much.
It annoys me so much. He is. He's a
and then up front, it's gotta be Haaland up front.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
So there's no question there.
The team has Ederson, Kyle Walker, Saliba, Diaz, Zinchenko, Rice, Rodri, De Bruyne, Saka, Haaland, Foden. That's a very, very strong team. We did quite well.
Strong team. I don't know how you can't get Stones on there.
It was never going to be easy, lads. And do you know what? It brings us on nicely. The predictions for the game. Stefan, Arsenal, the home team, will let you go first. I mean, you were getting on quite well until that 1-11, and it's turned very, very bitter and very, very sour. So
we're just having a debate.
How do we see the game going on Sunday?
I'm gonna hope for the same scoreline like we did in 2015. I'm gonna go for a 2-1.
2-1. Kieran's looking to know who the manager would be for the team, Pep or Arteta. I think he's taking a fuss. You know what it is here, Stefan? You've said all these things about Liverpool over the last couple of months, and he's trying to get his own back now, isn't he?
Of course.
Jamie, what about you? How do you see the game going on Sunday?
I'm going 3-1 City. I think it'll be a close enough affair. I think it'll be quite similar to midweek City's game. I think we'll just kind of run away about at the end.
Very interesting. Look, we were going to talk about United, but we're kind of running out of time, so we're just going to get straight into the predictions.
I'll talk about United.
Yeah, let's do it, Gareth.
We'll do it quite quickly, and we'll finish up in 20 minutes. We'll do a 90-minute game. We've got 20 minutes left or so.
Okay.
Lads, I mean, United at the minute, or everybody's sort of shoulder. Everyone's having a good laugh at United. Definitely you are, Jamie, being a Man City fan. Liverpool fans seem to be enjoying it. Spurs, do you know what? I don't really have a thing with United, but it's still funny. I mean, I was laughing. I was laughing the other night with Galatasaray. As you said, United and Arsenal are also rivals as well. Obviously, they shared them competitive years under Wenger and Ferguson. So, I mean, there's a big talking point at United at the minute about Eric Ten Hag. But for me, it just seems that, Jamie, he's going to suffer the same fate as Mourinho, as Van Gaal, as David Moyes, as Solskjaer, that it starts off well, but it fades, and rarely they're able to turn it around. And at the moment, even if you look at the games they've won, they haven't been convincing at all.
They're so lucky. They should have lost.
We're in October now, Jamie. I mean, so when is it going to click? I don't see it. I can only see they might get a couple of results here and there, but eventually it'll just come back again.
It's not. Ten Hag, in my opinion, he's lost the dressing room. The buys, whether it's him in charge of who's buying, I don't know. There's a lot of problems with the Glazers and the structure of the club, but the people are bringing in, even players. You know, they had about media hype jobs last year. People saying Casemiro's one of the best holding midfield. He's done. He's fast. These guys, if they were that good, Madrid would still have them. You know, they're finished. You know, they're bringing boys in that aren't good enough. I do like the young Danish striker, Holland. I think he's looked lively. He's something exciting. I think Garnacho's the same. But as regard, if you're looking just in their mentality, they just look defeated. And Ten Hag he's not a manager you can hang your hat on. I think personally he's been poisoned to the club since he's come on the door. I think he tried to make his reputation off the back of Ransom Ronaldo. I don't think Ronaldo should have had his interview at the time. But if you look at actually a lot of things he said, I 100% agree with him. He said United fans deserve better. And as much as I'm a City fan, United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest club in the world still. And they need to set higher standards. You know, you know, when he's done that now, he's gone to the media about Sancho. I don't disagree or not agree with Sancho. He's had his moments at City, and that's why we got rid of him as well. But it's not the way top managers deal with things. You know, and I think the fact that players have hung on there that arguably should have gone in the summer, Maguire, McTominay, you look at these guys, and I think that they feel like the dressing room's gone, and I think they're looking at it thinking,
I think you're right.
Here longer
Jamie, you coach like me as well. You know when there's a bit of a divide, even if I heard a few weeks ago, it was like a 90% were behind Ten Hag, but 10% weren't. That 10% can go 15, 20. It only goes one way. It rarely goes back to being 100. So I agree with that. I mean, Stefan, 6 losses from 10 games in all competitions. We've got one more game before the international break, and we know international breaks are dreaded for managers. Their teams are struggling. Just 2 weeks, they try and sort on out. I don't think, personally, even if he loses on Saturday, he will be sacked. I think it would put him under huge pressure before the last international break in November if results didn't pick up. But, I mean, how much pressure is he under? Because, realistically, if all the teams above him won and they lose to Brentford, top 4 looks near on impossible.
You know what? I don't have any sympathy for him. I'm enjoying. I'm bathing in this misery for Man United. I love it. I've always despised them as a kid, but in like high school, it was always between Arsenal fans and Man United fans, and you know they used to under Ferguson they would win more. So right now I'm enjoying it, but for the Eric Ten Hag, I have no sympathy because he created this. He spent 400 million on Eredivisie players. Let's be honest.
And they were all players that he knows and works with, so you can't really accuse him of anyone else picking. It has to be him picking the players. It has to be him picking the players, doesn't it?
Gareth, they could have shortened that process and they could have reduced the amount of money long term. just buy Ajax, just buy the whole club, put them together with Man United, and there you can sign the third goalkeeper for Ajax, or every player has to play in Eredivisie. The main reason I read that he signed Mason Mount was because he watched him play for Vitesse on loan. So like
And apparently he was talking at Højbjerg too, because he played with him at Bayern. He seen him at Bayern Munich.
Because when he was a coach at Bayern Munich too, he coached him in the youth team. So every single player, Tyreek Malacia, not good enough. You can see he's not good enough. Why did he sign him? Why? Because he plays for Feyenoord. Wout Weghorst, I would say the most embarrassing signing Man United. The guy couldn't even start for a relegated Burnley, and you signed this guy. Why? Because he's Dutch, and I don't know. He understands Dutch. Some of his signings have been an absolute just travesty. Paying 90 million for Anthony. Forget the off-field problems. Look at his on-field performance. Awful. I don't know. Even Ajax fans said they're like, he doesn't produce enough in the Eredivisie. How is he going to produce in the Premier League? So I don't want to hear. Casemiro, I agree here, was not his signing. It was more of a, as you know, Man United, every year they have like a vanity project where they sign one big-time player who they buy from Bayern.
And you could argue, I know he's had his struggles this year, but he's actually been the most positive signing of them all. You could argue he has been the most positive one.
I don't know about that, Gareth, because the last 6 months he's been absolutely
I agree, but he did make a difference initially, whereas a lot of these players that he signed
had a spell, but I think
much.
It was hyped up as well. You know what I mean? It was like Rashford, he had a wee and then summer after the World Cup, and let's not forget his entire career at United, he's been like more than he's been good. And that's where he's at.
Jamie, fans are very loyal towards him. For a team that's struggling, and we've sort of highlighted the problems here. Are you surprised that there's so much? I know there's the Gary Nevilles of the world are coming out and criticizing the owners, and he keeps saying you can't keep changing the manager every couple of years when things go wrong. But it's him signing the players. It's his style of play. He spent a lot of money, as Stefan says. Are you surprised that there's fans sticking with him and saying it's not his fault?
I am, but I'm seeing less and less sticking with him. I think they know the writings on the wall. I think this, in my opinion, he has been the worst appointment since Ferguson. I think he's got it so wrong and everything. He's been given money like the Glazers. I know a lot that Neville says about the Glazers, and I understand where he's coming from. So it's not just about backing the manager with players. It's the state of the stadium. It's the training facilities. They've got a loser's mentality in place at this moment in time, and I think that he's been the worst. I think Solskjaer has come in, done some of the right things. He brought in Pogba, and it was kind of like you're looking at Pogba, and he didn't perform at United, but Pogba was one of the best players in the world. It wasn't a cheap, Eredivisie signing, where it was overpriced. It was a top player. And
he also brought in Bruno Fernandes, who they love. He was an R signing that they got.
But he was. Sorry, he was. If you look at it, he was a panic buy, Bruno Fernandes, because in January they were really struggling. They were like 9th. I remember they lost to Newcastle away under Steve Bruce 1-0, and then they panicked and paid 65 million for Bruno. So every single they have Pogba came. He didn't come under Oli. He came under Mourinho. But again, it was a serious signing. I agree with James. But again, they don't scout the player's psychological profiles. Pogba, look at him. He's always injured, which tells me that he's not professional, because that's the reason. You sign him as a vanity project. Look at us, we're big time. You sign your former youth player who you lost, which in my opinion looks awful, that you then pay 100 million to sign him back. And then after that, you learn from that experience by saying, because Mourinho said you can't win anything with Pogba and Martial, who mope around, who aren't serious, who, let's be honest, are just soft. Every time things get difficult, they hide. And then you sign Jadon Sancho, who Jamie will know as a Man City fan, had issues with his training performance. That is the first thing that tells me this guy is not professional, is if he doesn't, that's your job. If you don't train well enough, what is the point here? Like, I don't.
Sorry, Stefan. Last question on this, right before we get into this weekend's games. A lot of people are saying this is an impossible job at the moment at United, but do you think a Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp go on there and it changes? Because obviously they're very, very scarce managers, but I want you to try and think, because even if you look at Arsenal under Arteta, the Arsenal fans hated Kroenkes before that. Even so much, I know Spurs it's very early days, but all of a sudden now, Ange Postecoglou's created a good feeling about the club. We're not hearing so much about Daniel Levy. You look at Liverpool; they were criticising FSG under Brendan Rodgers. and before that they had other managers on there, and then Klopp comes in, changes it all around. Fair enough. Maybe the last 12 months, FSG's come under a bit of criticism because Liverpool's dropped a wee bit. And if you look at Man City now, they've become like a self-sustaining club, Jamie, as we talked about before in the summer. They're having to sell top players, they buy top players. So, I mean, they're lacking a manager. For me, it's not just the owners. I mean, if they get a top manager in there, it changes, doesn't it?
I think criticising the owners of the club, I think it's become in vogue at the minute. You know, I think that's where the fans they try to act a bit more worldly than what they are, and they want to blame the owners rather than just sound just trashy and blame the manager. But the fact is, the manager's not doing the job. Nobody has a problem with the owners when the manager's winning games, you know, and that's just the way it is. There is things behind the scene, and that's the thing. No, we'll all say it, City. You know, when we got on Soriano and a few different guys on from Barcelona before Pep came, you could see where we were trying to build a structure. I think that's what Man United's lost in the last few years. They don't have a structure of a club that they once were. They had the youth academy, which was fantastic. They have great players coming through, and this conveyor belt of talent. They don't have that anymore. You know, and I do think a top man. If you look at what Arteta done at Arsenal, he came in and he made, and you know, we talked about it earlier on about he's being cutthroat. And I have to say, when you look at that time, he was quite cutthroat. He got rid of Aubameyang. You know, he got rid of some big money signings. He made it clear Pepe, who was a £70 million signing, wasn't going to play. You know, and you know the club backed them. To be fair, you know, they knew we're going to take a massive hit financially, but they backed them and they've reaped the rewards.
But even under Arteta too, you could see, even though there was bad results on there and they went free bad, there was a style of play. There was a style of play and identity. I don't see any identity with this Man United team at all.
No. Yeah, go on, Jim.
I wholeheartedly agree. I just don't see any identity. I just see a shambles, and I think it's been typified by the way Ten Hag speaks in the media, the way he criticizes players. You know, to be fair, the Sancho thing, I wholeheartedly agree and believe him. Absolutely. But he says he's not training hard enough, he's not working hard enough. But I just don't think it's the right. I don't think top managers come out with such a classless statement in the media, because at the end of the day, you don't want to say. And I was glad to see him defend himself, to be honest, because at the end of the day, Ten Hag's got it wrong so often. If someone came out and tweeted, "I can't believe he played this position," you know what I mean? It'll be kicked out of the club.
Stefan,
we'll give.
I completely disagree with Jamie.
Stefan, we'll give you the last word on this. We'll give you the last word on Man United. Go ahead.
With Jadon Sancho, I completely disagree. He wasn't played by Solskjaer. He wasn't played by Ragnick, and then the third coach. And him coming out and saying how can you say in your statement, "I think my training performance is good"? Who are you to say? You're a player.
I agree with what you're saying. All I'm saying is I disagree with the manager criticizing them in public. I think that's classless. You know, that could be done behind closed doors.
I think so, because if Ten Hag doesn't make a statement, Sancho doesn't make one, does he?
No, but wait, Sancho. Yeah, but Sancho could have been, for example, just a good example. Aaron Wan-Bissaka last season. Everybody said he's gone. He wasn't even in match day squads for a few months. He knuckled down. He worked his ass off. Didn't complain in the media like this, you know, or post pictures of himself in parties in New York after not being in the match squad for 2 weeks. Okay, he knuckled down. He worked hard and got back into the match day squad and started playing regularly. For me, that shows attitude. For me, what Sancho did shows completely why Man City and Pep let him go. Shows why at Borussia Dortmund he got reprimanded a number of times for being late to training. Not even being removed from the matchday squad for 1 week because he wasn't training hard enough. Even in England, Gareth Southgate left him out for I think a group game in the Euros because he wasn't training. So this, when it's once, it's a coincidence. When it's more than twice, 3 times, then it's definitely 100% a pattern where different managers have seen the same thing. With Manchester United going back, I completely agree with Jamie. The problem is that they annoy me with the owners. There is no club that has spent more money than Man United. The fact is that it is not Man City or Arsenal or Liverpool's fault that they have spent it incorrectly. Yeah. It is not our fault you paid 80 million for Harry Maguire or 85 million for Anthony. Okay, even the Højlund deal is crazy. A guy that scored 8 goals in Serie A, you pay 75 million. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's like I don't know. Do Man United negotiators just go in and say, you know what? We're just gonna offer you 30 million.
How much do you want them all ahead?
Yeah. No. How much do you want? We're gonna give you 20 million.
Before we get into the predictions, lads, there's been a lot of talk about this week, and we'll do a couple of minutes on it. I want you to give me your solutions on it, just very, very quickly. Jamie, we'll start with you. VAR. How do we make it better? How do we stop these conversations around VAR at the moment?
First, let the ref. I'm not saying VAR shouldn't be used or anything like that by any stretch, but the ref has to referee the game, not try and put the game to the rule book. I think they're looking at tackles and they're comparing it to other tackles and other red cards and other penalties, where I think every instance is different, and we have to trust that the referee will make the right call. It doesn't have to be the same call. One red card is not exactly the same as the other red card. Obviously, the offside one at Liverpool, the other day, that was just a mistake. That was a mistake. That's the main thing. You know what I mean? But I think that the referee has to be a bit more, be given a bit more license to make their own decisions. I think they're trying too hard to referee their rule book rather than referee the game in front of them.
Yeah, Stefan, what about you? Before we move on to the predictions, VAR,
guys,
what's the solution?
I'm way more harsh than you guys. Fire everybody. Fire everybody. I'm going to tell you why. I'm from Bulgaria. I live here. I went to a game last week in Bulgaria. We use VAR, okay? In Bulgaria, they use VAR better than in the UK. There is less controversy. You have no idea. I was so impressed with how we used VAR. I was like, wow, this is so professional. Why is it only in the UK that you in the English Premier League why you get these issues, these constant almost every week now? It's becoming a joke. The PG MOL releases some sort of apology. We're sorry, we made a mistake. How many games does this idiot Darren England get now? How many mistakes? He ruined our game last year against Brentford. Gave them a point pretty much when they were offside. This year, ridiculous mistake again with Liverpool and Spurs. How many games do refs get? You can't just suspend these guys when they're not good enough and then bring them in the fold again. My solution is simple: create competition, make the PG MOL better itself, and the only way to do that is to acknowledge that the refereeing is not of the standard. Hire foreign refs. The moment you hire foreign refs to come in and to referee games, and they show, like, for example, the best ref in the world right now, in my opinion, is the Polish guy. I forgot his name. Hire him. He refs all the UEFA Champions League big games. He ref the World Cup final. He's a sensational ref. The moment you hire him, the PG MOL will not be forced only into suspensions. They'll be like, okay, guys, we're not going to just suspend them. We're going to introduce new policies in terms of coaching refs.
I get your theory. Make them feel threatened to their position.
Make them feel, because this constant thing where there's outrage, they publish an apology, they suspend Darren England for, he's not going to, what was that suspension, by the way? He's not going to ref any Liverpool games for the rest of the season. What was that?
Like, I think that's the pick that he'd often, in case there's a decision that goes maybe against or for Liverpool. But look, lads, it's time for the Premier League preview and predictions. We're going to get your predictions before you go. Been a very, very good show. I think everyone's enjoying it. Plenty of debate and plenty of confrontation, which has been good. But expect nothing less between the two, in my opinion, at the moment, the two best teams in the country. So, maybe the third best team's playing at 12:30 tomorrow, Stefan. Luton against Spurs.
Do you put Luton the third best team?
No, I'm only messing. I'm only messing. Maybe, believe it or not, for all the early season pessimism, Spurs could be top of the league at 2:30 tomorrow. If they beat Luton, which to me, this game's got danger written all over it if you're a Spurs fan.
Exactly.
So how do you see this game going? We'll get your predictions, lads, and then we'll move on. We'll do it quite quickly because we are going on a bit. But Jamie, how do you see this game going?
I see an easy one for Spurs, to be totally honest. This could be 3 or 4 for Spurs. I think Spurs are playing good football. Luton, for all their effort, they're just not up to it, to be totally honest.
I have to say now, Jamie, you were the only person, and I didn't even predict this. You said to me, you think at the start of the season before a ball was kicked, you thought Spurs would be in the top 4. So I have to congratulate you, because at the moment,
last season we spoke about players that the Spurs were underutilising. I think Basuma's one that I mentioned at the time, that he's looked like a new signing this year. No, Madison's a fantastic signing. I think Harry Kane leaving, as much as you've lost an absolute quality, but they've really lost a monkey off their back. So I think Spurs, they're in that position where, again, what I've said about Arsenal are in the show, they're not expected a lot of them, but they're doing the right things. Postecoglou's got them playing good football, they're being brave, and they look good. I don't think they're going to win the league, but I think they'll beat the teams they should be beating. And that's a massive step forward. I think the last few years they weren't beating the teams they should be beating. You know what I mean? They just pop up and beat City and then go back to losing every
What do you think? You think 3-0, is it you said? 3-0?
I'll go 4-0.
4-0.
Wow.
Oh, you
4-0,
forgot about it.
4-0 Spurs.
I mean, Stefan, what about you? I mean, how do you see this game going? Potential stumbling block because we know
Yes.
this is going to be tight, compact, but have Spurs got the quality to break them down?
I'm just gonna ask you this, Gareth. As a Spurs fan, when you hear potential to be first, playing against an easy team,
That's
you're
what I
in good
said to you.
form,
Danger.
right? Spursiness,
Spursiness.
Spursiness is tingling, right? I worry because I watched you guys against Sheffield, and you really struggled to break them down.
Yeah.
And Luton are Sheffield on steroids, meaning that they're the tallest team on average. You guys are the shortest team on average. Every set piece is going to be a chance for Luton. I think this will be a draw. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I really do.
I tend to agree more with Stefan. This one, I think it'll be a tough game because of the physicality, small pitch. Spurs are missing a couple as well.
Injuries.
Son and Madison are fit, but we've lost a couple of our players. And Son at the minute is playing for injury. They're trying to get that sorted during the international break. I don't think it's a game that'll suit Son because it's going to be tight, compact, not going to be much space in behind. I mean, if you look at it, Arsenal, Liverpool are Son's bread and butter. Two teams that leave space in behind. And Man City too, he seems to score against. So there is games, but need a big game out of Richarlison. I think the first goal is huge. If Luton get the first goal, this is going to be really, really tough. But I just think we'll have enough. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs 1.
Yeah, but Gareth, you know exactly what's going to happen in the first 5 minutes, right? They're going to wait for Son. They're going to wait for Son to touch the ball, and their biggest defender, who's probably like 1.95 m and looks like a bodybuilder, is going to go through him.
I have to say though, Son's impressed me. I really thought, maybe he was finished, but he's been ruthless so far this season.
He stepped up this season again. He's looking back to what you expect of him. He's been very, very good. But I've been impressed with Spurs as a whole, and I don't see them same flaws they had last year. I think they look a lot more solid at the back. They have a style of play, and they have that second wave all the time. Like if they lose the ball and it comes back up, they'll just go again. They have a good.
And they might have been fortunate in certain games, but they have scored a lot of late goals too and come from behind a few times. So they that there has to be something in that. I'm just doing. But here, Burnley, Chelsea, 3:00. Chelsea got a big one. I mean, at the minute, Chelsea
huge win.
The way they saw. I mean, I was watching the game Monday night. The way their fans celebrated was like it reminded me of when they won the Champions League. They were just so keen to get that one. They were desperate. Mudryk gets a goal, and this will be a real test for Chelsea now because can they follow it up? They've really struggled. They do back-to-back ones all year since January. So I mean, Burnley, I think they play good football, but they lack killer instinct. They lack killer instinct and they lack quality. But I think this will be tight. How do you see this going, Jimmy?
I don't know. It's hard to tell with Chelsea. I was impressed with them against Fulham, to be honest. I like Brozier playing up top. I think he gave him a bit more of a shape as a side.
Yeah.
It was probably the best performance that I've seen from Mudryk since his debut. That fleeting against Liverpool. But he looked, a bit more in the game. He created a bit of space and a bit of distance between him and the main striker. So I thought he could impose himself. Sterling looked all right. I liked the look of Gallagher. But the problem is Chelsea, they've just been so up and down. Chelsea are going to get turned over here right and easy. They've not been any way consistent this year. Even when they've won games, they didn't look good. And then they lost games where they dominated. You just don't know what you're going to get. Burnley haven't been good either. I think, obviously I love Vinny and I want Burnley to do well. But
they got a good one against. They won that game. No, Luton, the game was postponed. They got that good one, and that was a massive one for them.
It was a big one for them. It's a big one for them because if you lose to Luton, you're straight away, even this early in the season.
And the fact that Luton beat Everton on the Saturday, they would have been 6 points behind Luton if they had lost that game.
But let's be honest, that game, Luton-Everton, Everton missed so many chances that game. I don't know how they lost that game, Everton.
No, Everton's just, I don't know what. I think Everton, the best thing could happen to Everton is to go down. I think they've been battling relegation for so long. I think they need to go down and rebuild and start from scratch because they've been doing this. They're treading water for the past 5 years.
Score predictions for this game, lads. What do you think?
Be close. I'll go 2-1 Chelsea.
I agree. 2-1 Chelsea.
2-0 Burnley.
Oh,
you got I'm actually surprised. Jamie was impressed. They had a 15-minute spell in which they scored 2 goals in 1 minute. Then in the second half, they let Fulham onto them. Fulham should have scored a goal. I didn't see anything that really impressed me. I don't know how Chelsea have done it. They have caught the Man United bug where they sign really good players from other teams that look League One level. Like Caicedo in that game was awful against Fulham. Like I was like, who is this player? Like he looked amazing for Brighton. For Chelsea, he looks like he looks like a Conor Gallagher outplayed him. Like I was like, what's going on here?
Score prediction for this game, Stefan?
2-0 Burnley.
He's just right, and we were on the Everton there, didn't we? But so I mean, huge game as well at the bottom. Both teams have been struggling. Everton got that big one against Brentford, but then lost to Luton. You don't know what you're going to get. They seem to be where Everton got their points at home over the last couple of years. They seem to be picking them up away from home this season. They haven't scored a goal yet at home. They've lost all their games.
Really, they haven't?
No, they haven't scored a goal. And if you actually look, bar Arsenal, the games they've played were Wolves, Fulham, and Luton. So they haven't played top sides at home and they struggled. So I mean, this might be a game that suits Bournemouth because I think Everton have to come out and try and play because they're at home. At Bournemouth, have we seen they can be decent in games, but they lack as well a wee bit of quality. So tight game, big game. I don't know. I think this could be. I think Bournemouth could sneak us. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth.
And you know what? I'm going to go 0-0, a board draw. I think the two of them is going to nullify each other, and I think both sides lack goals. You know, and that's and I think that's going to end up. I think the two of them will struggling come the end of the season. To be honest.
I personally think Everton are quite underrated this year. If you look at their performances and underlying stats,
they can't put the ball in the net, but I think that's
they can't put. But they're playing far better than the results they have, in my opinion, and I think that will catch on. I think Bournemouth are poor. They're one of the poorest sides that I have watched this year in terms of they play a system that doesn't suit them, as they're trying to play open, expansive football when their defense just isn't good enough. If you watch them against Arsenal, I mean, they tried to press Arsenal like their defensive line was almost at the halfway line. So, and that's why I think they lost 4-0. But even against Spurs, although they gave you trouble, playing a high line against Son is just asking for trouble. So, in my opinion, I think Everton will beat them. I think it will be a 1-0 victory because Everton.
Yeah, another big game at the bottom. Sheffield rooted to the bottom, 1 point from 7 games. Pressure on the manager. Talk of Chris Wilder possibly coming in because they backed up their relationship with the owner. And I do believe that if they're going to make a change, it will be during an international break. So I mean, well, is there any way back for Sheffield if they lose this? Do you think that'll be when they'll pull the plug, Jamie?
I think so. Look, but what do you want? What was Sheffield United really thinking was going to happen this season?
The three teams that come up didn't really show any ambition to try and stay up. They didn't spend any money at all.
I think they're happy enough to go back down, get the parachute payments, and rebuild again. And I think, like, if you remember a few years ago, Burnley done that before they had a long stay in the Premier League. They went up and down, up and down, and every time they came up a little bit stronger. And I think so that maybe there is a method to the madness. They, like you said, they haven't seemed to show any ambition. They bring in and make the squad stronger, but I don't really blame them because. Who's come up and bought? Like Forest, look at what they've spent. They did stay up, but I'd say Forest will be in the mix come the end of the season as well.
I think what you're hunting at is if they come up and spend a whole pile of money and it doesn't work and they get relegated, they're in trouble. And
I think they've done the right thing. Come up, learn. They've got young players. They brought on a couple of. They've got what young fella from City. He's Doyle's gone there now and he's doing well with them. But so they've strengthened where they need to strengthen, but. I don't really know what the board want. They start changing the manager because they're performing exactly as you would expect them to perform.
Fulham aren't pulling up any trees this yeyear, but I think because there's so many poor teams below them, they'll be okay. Do you expect them to win this game?
Yeah, it will be like a 1-0 win for Fulham, I think. Because Fulham, ever since they sold Mitrovic, they look toothless up front. Like they don't look as good, and I just think Marco Silva is an underrated coach. I think he's a good coach, and I don't think they go down with it. I think this is the first year. Would you say in Premier League history? I don't know if this is true that the 3 teams that got promoted all get relegated.
I'm not sure if it's happened before.
Has it happened before?
I'm not sure if it does, but there's a massive chance it's definitely going to happen this year.
There's a good chance.
I'll
agree. 3 teams on the mix, but there's a good chance the three came up with good.
I
agree. I think Fulham will win the game. I don't think they'll destroy or
It will
bust
be
them
an
aside.
absolutely awful game. It will be like a championship
Three
game.
1-0 for Fulham, I think.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
Now huge game at Old
Oh,
Trafford. Now, I mean, I've seen the pundits' predictions, and they're very, very mixed. And that tells you that Brentford haven't been great this year. They've been struggling a wee bit. They're actually below United in the table. They're struggling to score goals as well. United at the minute, you think they want it, and then they go and lose a couple. I mean, losing to Galatasaray at home. Galatasaray's first one away from home in the Champions League for 10 years. Their first one in England ever. Tells you that the
really?
size of the task. Yeah, they'd never won a game in England before Galatasaray.
It's a crazy stat, that.
Yeah.
I was surprised myself, actually.
And like for a team that's regular in the Champions League, it was their first away one in the Champions League in the group stages for 10 years. So it shows you that they don't win too often away from home. I mean,
Eric Ten Hag, man. Eric Ten Hag.
that'll give Brentford all the confidence in the world, lads. I'm not even going to read anymore. I'm going to ask you for your predictions first, because I mean, I'm struggling to back United for this game. So Jamie, what about you?
I'm going to go for Brentford, and I'm not just being predictive for the sake of it. I think Brentford actually perform better against top teams. I think they come out and show better against teams that will play expansive football, try and get at them. I think, but that's where they can unlock the door. Mustn't Ivan Toney, great striker. You know, he has a difference maker. But I think at the minute, though, Brentford, United's low on confidence. They will go out and try and play the same way. But I just don't see anything coming to fruition for United.
I think the Brentford's credit does, as Thomas Frank said on the Monday Night Football when he was on as a special guest, I think they're already planning for life without Tony. They expect him to move on in January anyway. So it's almost as if he can completely sideline Tony, and it's almost like he's left the club already. So, I mean, Stefan, what about you? Jamie sent Brentford. What did you say score prediction, Jamie?
I'll go 2-0. 2-0 Brentford.
2-0. Wow.
What do you think about that, Stefan?
No, if you look at Brentford, I really rate Frank as a coach, and I really like Brentford. But if you look at their away record, it's not very good ever since they've been in the Prem. I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw. I think Man United are gonna struggle. I think I just, the reason why is if they had Tony, I would maybe go for a Brentford win, but without Tony, they just don't score goals. They don't score enough goals.
I agree with you, Stefan. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. 5:30. Now, I don't know why this is the 5:30 game on a Saturday. Crystal Palace
classic
for us. Not a great game. I don't think anyone will be rushing to watch this, but I mean, it's hard to get a read in these two teams. There's no consistency about them. But I think this might sit Forest away from home. You know, they maybe counter-attack them. I don't know. I don't think many goals on it, but I'm going to go for a Forest 1-0.
And you know what? Again, you have the nail in the head. You know, you can't get a read on either of them. But I'll go Palace. They're coming off with a confidence to beat United. I'll go Palace 1-0. You know, I don't think it's going to be much of a match. You know, there's a few kind of dull ones on the match there this weekend, but I don't see that being much of a game.
Gareth, don't forget Forest won their first away game since they've been in the Premier League at Chelsea for like almost a year. So Forest's away record is absolutely awful. This game is going to be a night game at Selhurst Park. Palace usually play well at home. This game is going to be which team is going to try to give the ball to the other team, because both teams don't play very possession football. Is going to be awful. But I just think Palace have a bit more quality up front with Eze and stuff. I just think they're a slightly better team. And at home, especially at home.
I think I read Eze's out injured, but Eze's out for the next 2 months. I think he got an injury this week.
2 months? Really?
Yeah, same this week.
Okay, I'm going to go for then, if Eze's out, a 0-0 draw. This is going to be awful, this game.
I do agree with you. I think Elise is a big must, and Eze, if he's out, is going to be a huge must, and they've lost Saha, so some of that attacking quality has rendered. I
suppose Edward's been scoring a few, so
this is going to be good.
First part of Super Sunday. I mean, it's a bumper Super Sunday. Brighton, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. What a great Sunday it is before the international break. I mean, Brighton were flying, then they lose Villa to 6-1. I don't think anyone's seen that coming. And then they were 2-0 down to Marseille. I watched the game yesterday. It was a great game of football. But Brighton battled back, and at the end, Marseille were hanging on for a point. I mean, they showed that they've got a lot of character on them, and they do play great football. Liverpool, on the other hand, are, you know, very unlucky to lose to Spurs. Let's just, you know, have it right. They were very unlucky to lose that game. Definitely deserved at least a draw. And they do have a lot of attacking quality, and if Brighton open up, it could suit Liverpool. I expect a lot of goals in this game, boys. What do you think?
I would agree. I'll be going for a Liverpool one on this one. If you had said to me 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'd have fancied Brighton to nick it. They're playing good football.
Meats has been hanging on for this. Meats has been hanging on for this game. He's saying 4-0.
Kieran, relax,
4-0.
Kieran, relax. Jesus, 4-0.
I won't go 4-0, but because you don't get tanked twice in a week. You know what I mean?
Meats is one of them people, but if Villa can beat them 6, Liverpool can beat them 10. That's his motto.
No, I think Liverpool will do the business. I think Brighton's having a wee blip in form. I think European football isn't agreeing with them. I don't think they have enough. I think the players in their squad look good when they're coming in bits and parts, but when you're having to rely on them for a lot of games, they're just lacking that wee bit there. And even when they were winning on the run-up there a few weeks ago, they weren't there. The first game, they were beat by Athens. And then before that, I think was it Brentford they beat? They weren't great. So I think Liverpool.
They beat Newcastle. They thrashed Newcastle.
Yeah, they stuffed them.
No, they beat. But after that, was it Brentford or I can't remember. But they've had a wee blip. Still a great squad.
They smashed. It was United, wouldn't it? They beat United. Was it? United. They beat
3-1. Yeah, they destroyed United.
They beat Newcastle as well. 3-0 was it? Ferguson's got a hat trick in that game as well. But I think they're just going for a little blip. I don't see a 4 or 5er, but I think Liverpool will edge it.
What do you think? 2-0?
I'm going to go 3-1.
3-1. Stefan?
I'm shocked at this confidence in Liverpool. I really don't see it. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Brighton win. I think Liverpool will give them like they always do. Yeah,
I hope you're right.
And I'm going to tell you guys why. Brighton play much better. Yes, I know they've had hiccups in Europe, but they've been playing. I know they lost 6-1 to Villa, but let's be honest. If you watch that game, Villa were just lethal. Like every single shot.
Are you still sticking to your prediction that Brighton will make a top 4?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I am because I'm just not convinced by either Newcastle or Spurs. I just think Spurs. It's
the wheels will fall off.
Not the wheels will fall off. It's for me, if you look at precedents, right? Maddison and Bissouma are injury prone. They will get injured. As an Arsenal fan, I know this, where I'm like, okay, Partey was not going to get injured, or Tierney.
They're already carrying injuries. You can see that in the Liverpool game.
Yeah, like Maddison, from what I'm reading, is pretty much on ice every week. He barely trains from whatever. So is Son. So all you need is one injury, and your whole team structure and everything goes out of the window. So that's why I'm not convinced by Spurs. Brighton, on the other hand, they have a system, they have a whole structure, and I really think Liverpool away. The reason why is because Liverpool away give you 30 to 45 minutes, either a half where they play absolutely poorly. If you watch all their games, especially away from home, the Wolves game, Wolves should have been 2-3-0 up in the first half. They missed a number of big chances, and then Liverpool equalized, and then had like a 10-15 minute spell where they scored 3 goals. If they give Brighton 30 minutes to pepper their goal, Brighton will score goals. So I think this game is going to be. I think Brighton are going to beat.
So you're both going 3-1 different ways. So Jamie
different ways. Yeah, I'm going 3-1.
I'm going to go for 3-2 Liverpool with a dodgy penalty going Liverpool's way, and then Klopp's going to come out after the game and
that's actually true. Yeah.
He's going to say replay the game, and he's going to want us all back over. So 3-2 Liverpool, dodgy penalty, and he's going to say replay the game. Be interesting. No, I do think Liverpool will nick it. I think it'll be a great game, great warm up for the Arsenal City game. I just think Liverpool will edge it in quality up top.
I just think in form at the moment. I think Brighton's just having a wee wobble.
I think it'll be great. I think Brighton will walk away from it, believing they probably should have got a point. But I think Liverpool will nick it 3-2, being a great game.
But guys, don't you agree from the last European game? I wouldn't call that like a bad game because Brighton came back from 2-0 down. They fought back. They could have won at the end. So,
but the worrying thing is, Stefan, is they had a terrible first 45 against Marseille. They were awful.
But Liverpool were the same. Liverpool
exactly. I think it'd be interesting to see if both teams turn up. How it goes, but I think if either team, if Brighton do what they did in the first half against Marseille or against Villa, Liverpool will destroy them. If Liverpool do what they did against Spurs at times in that first half, where they left big spaces, then Brighton could expose them. So it's a nip and tuck game. It's going to be a great game. West Ham, Newcastle, again, two teams that are going well. West Ham are playing. They got a great one away from home against Freiburg. The only thing is, when West Ham have played a Man City or a Liverpool, they've been put in their place, and you could say Newcastle are a better team as well. Newcastle destroyed PSG. I mean, I think everyone fancied Newcastle, not to that extent. They won 4-1, but they were brilliant. But how much will that take out on lads? Now that they put a lot of work into that game on Wednesday night. Will West Ham be helping Newcastle at a good time?
I don't know. I think Newcastle's are on the right trajectory. You know, I think that
And
one.
you says Newcastle for third too. You sticking by that?
I still think they'll be on the third. I think they're showing the best football, you know, from the outside of the top two, and I still think they'll be there third. I'll still put my hat in third for them, but I think that's a big one for them during the week. It's a mentality shifting one. You know, it's not, you know, you won't beat a PSG 4-1 in the manner they did. You're looking and going, they really believe that they should be there. And I think but then this is where Newcastle have to really show the worth, and they have to beat the teams. It's no good going out and beating PSG.
They'll be like, who's the next game?
I think so. I think so. And I think Eddie Howe's rotated well. I think he's used his squad well. And, you know, so I think injuries and legginess, I don't think is going to become a factor just yet. But so I'm expecting a Newcastle one on Sunday.
Score prediction?
I'll go. It's hard to call, you know, because if they get flying like they did against Sheffield United, you just don't know what's going to happen. Because I know because Sheffield United were poor, but Newcastle were great. They were like killer instinct, and you know, but I don't. Maybe West Ham will just come on and sit a wee bit tighter. So we'll go 2-0. We'll keep it conservative and go 2-0 Newcastle.
Stefan, how about you? How do you see this game?
I'm different from Jamie. I think David Moyes. Yeah, I think David Moyes is really underrated at the moment. I think he's not getting enough credit that he deserves. The way he's.
I mean, a lot of people were saying he wasn't going to last the season, but West
Ham.
It
was. I mean, he won them a trophy. I think West Ham are slowly starting to resemble that consistently in the top kind of 6, in the early kind of the 2005 to 2010 period of his old Everton side. He has a similar type of quality where they're super gritty, very good defensively, a little bit, you know, not the most pleasant to watch, just like those Everton teams, but very physical, very big, good on set pieces. If you remember,
I think West Ham fans just want to see them play the West Ham way, don't they?
No, I just think West Ham fans.
Whatever that is. I don't know West Ham way.
No, that means you know, working hard and, you know, being tough and stuff like that. But and he fits that persona perfectly, and the way they play. And if you look at what he's also fixed, what he's not getting credit for is the signings that he's made over the last 6 months to a year look really good. The way Alvarez has slotted into the actual midfield, he looks sensational. I thought Kudus, I was surprised he went to West Ham. I thought he was better than West Ham when he moved. So they've made some really good signings that look good. Bowen is extremely lethal in the box. He's scoring goals. I think this game, if I'm honest, guys, I think it's going to be a 1-0 West Ham victory.
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be very tight as well. And finally, Wolves against Aston Villa. Again, Wolves get that big one against Man City. No one's seen that coming. And Wolves have done okay this season. And then you look at Villa, who are flying after that Brighton result. And then they got a lit winner last night, albeit against a team they were expected to be quite comfortable with. They found a way to win in the end. Yeah. And you have to say, Emery's done a fantastic job at Villa. I mean, I worried for them a wee bit after the Newcastle game.
The Newcastle game, I was worried
Liverpool, they were well beat at Liverpool too, 3-0. So I worried about them, but they've responded quite well. I mean, and they'll look at this as a chance to get another 3 points. And I think Villa are sitting around 5th in the table with 17 or 15 points they're sitting on. So they've done quite well this season. How do you see this going, lads?
You know me, Gareth. Villa are my second team, so I pretty much watch every game. And I'm going to tell you this: Villa away to Wolves is not a good place for them. I think Villa have lost pretty much. They haven't won there in ages.
It's a bit of a derby, isn't it? Can we Birmingham in the league will be probably
because I went to uni in Birmingham. It's not that big. It's a Midlands derby, but it's not very kind of heated or something. There's not a lot of like passion related.
The way Birmingham are playing, you could see Birmingham back next. So it'll be interesting if they make a playoffs. Could they
maybe I would be glad, because Birmingham City Aston Villa is one of the best derbies in England for sure. So, but if you ask me, no, I honestly think this is the ultimate Villa. Villa have Spursiness in them. Let me tell you that they do.
What's Spursiness? I don't know what that is.
Sorry. They will Villa like to choke away from home from teams there, especially when they're in good form where they're expected to be. And Wolves is one of them. At the Molineux, they always struggle. I think this game it's going to be a 1-0 win for Wolves.
Wolves. Jamie, how about you?
Do you know what? Because other than Wolves beating City, and they should have got result at United, with the dodgy penalty late in the game.
And against Liverpool, they played really well for the first 45, 60 minutes.
But I just think they do all right where they get a free hit. I think they'll be looking for it. They'll kind of need to be beating your Villas if you're looking to stay up and in the league this year. I think Villa will have too much for them. I think things are starting to click. I'm going to go 1-0, Villa 1.
I'm going to go 2-1.
Actually, Villa do have a couple of injuries at the minute as well. So
I'm going to go for a 2-1. Villa will be flying on the rig. Lads, and the final game of the weekend leaves us, so we'll finish off tonight. Leads us all up to Arsenal Man City, the final game before the international break, which no one really looks forward to, especially if you're an Irish fan, because we've no one to look forward to at the moment. I mean, final word on the podcast, lads. Jamie, we'll start with you. Arsenal Man City.
I said 3-1 earlier. I'm going to go 10-0. No, 3-1 City. 3-1 City, I think. And I don't. And that's not a 3-0, 3-1 battering by any stretch of the imagination. But I think as the game goes on, I think we'll pick gaps. I think
Kieran saying he's praying for an Arsenal 1, but he sees Man City winning at 6-0.
Okay.
6-0.
I guess he's denied. Stefan, how about you? Your prediction?
I told you it's more hope than belief, but I'm gonna go for we're finally gonna break through. We're finally gonna get over the hump. I think we're gonna win 2-1. And I do fear that scenario that Jamie said, where it's going to be really tight 1-1, and then there will be a moment in the game where City will be ruthless, and then they might run away with the game. But I hope the Arsenal crowd comes and is serious and creates an atmosphere and just pushes the actual players, and because we're going to need it. We're going to need to play, because City always play well against Arsenal. They always play well against us, so we're gonna need to be, to upper game, and let's embrace it. Don't be scared.
I'm going to finish off the podcast by saying I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and that's going to leave Spurs top of the table going on tonight.
I thought you were sitting on the fence there.
That's it. No, I actually do think it's going to be tight. I think it could well be a draw. But to be honest,
City
they be looking at Premier League tables.
The league's not won or lost in October. And personally, I don't want City getting dragged into some kind of dogfight. Play your game. This is not a derby. They have to go out and be tactical and play their game. And, don't get dragged under playing a way that we don't usually play. Go out and control the game. That's what we need to be looking to do. And, if we do have to sit a little bit deeper and hit them on the counter, I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing for City. And Bernardo's back foot as well, which kind of has absence.
Guys,
under the radar, I think he's a big player. Him back foot's a massive plus for us as well.
Update for the game. I just read Saka is going to train tomorrow. He's probably fit for the game.
I think they'll push Saka into the team anyway, even if he's half foot. Lads,
can't wait. Aki marks him out of the game completely.
That is the Premier League preview. I want to thank everybody that's watched. I want to thank you for your comments. I mean, I think the two boys have been absolutely brilliant. So I want to give you a round of applause because it was fantastic. Both fire, full of passion, but look. Really, really a lot of respect between the two teams as well. Anyone that really enjoyed the show, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. Lads, thanks very much. Enjoy the game on Sunday. And never know, Spurs could be top of the table going on the national break.
Never know. Cheers, lad.
See ya.